So, welcome to the first inaugural lecture series of Service Design and Innovation Conference Series. And the first session will be delivered by Professor Mari Suoheimo, and she will be talking on the foundation of service design. So with that, I welcome all of you to this inaugural conference series. Uh, so to begin with, I welcome Professor Mari, and I would like to request her to start the inaugural session. Professor Mari Suoheimo is working as an associate professor of service design at Oslo School of Architecture and Design. Her research concentrates on how to approach wicked problems in service design. Wicked problems are diverse and can range from sustainability to use of technology. Suoheimo's research interests are in the field of mobility, logistics, emerging technologies, public services, participatory design, design for policy, circular economy, design theories, decolonizing design and sustainability, etc. She holds a doctor's degree in service design and master's and bachelor's of industrial design from University of Lapland and Bachelor of Arts Education and Centro Universitario Claretino. Suoheimo has working experience in service design, UX, products, marketing, branding, and many other related areas. Uh, she is a art teacher and also teaching language was English. In Brazil, Suoheimo also owned a micro enterprise called Design District. And then she returned to Finland and then to begin her doctoral studies in service design. And then after completing her doctoral studies in 2018, she received 1-year grant from Lapland Cultural Foundation for her thesis. She was working as a service design researcher and project manager at the University of Lapland for both LUX research group and Costa service design. She has a vast experience in research projects, European, Nordic, and many other organizations. And she has successfully funding to start a new master's degree program in service design called PAMA at University of Lapland. So there are other achievements. Maybe she'll talk about that. But she has also extensively published in journals like Design Journal, International Journal of Design, Design Management, and Professional Practice. So she's part of the editorial board of the Design Journal. So with this, maybe I will hand it over to Professor Mari to start the talk. And I request all of you, to those who want to ask questions, to put your questions in the chat box, and we will be summarizing, and then she will be answering these questions at the end of her talk. So yeah, with that, over to you, Professor Mari. You can start the session.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for the introductions, and honored to be here starting the inaugural lecture series. And for some reason, I'm not able to see you or myself, but I'm seeing my slides, and I just want to ask if you're seeing my slides now. I've been working in or for some of to all of these companies and some others as well, but I put couple examples here. And I defended my thesis in service design, how to approach problems in 2020. So, and that was kind of start of my academic career. And I'm happy that it's been downloaded quite often. So I think it has today over 2,000 downloads. And if you're more interested in the research I do, so you can find the publications from my Google Scholar. And as already mentioned, so I've been working before the Oslo School of Architecture and Design at the University of Lapland and at the Metropolitan University of Applied Sciences, been project manager for several projects and postdoctoral researcher. So these have in the middle are like the projects. I've written the proposals or worked in them, and the funding bodies are here below. I have co-edited 2 books, one about service design for emerging technologies, product development, and other one is now coming out this coming January, Systemic Service Design, together with Peter Jones, Shenghong Li, and Birger Sevaldson. And service design, what it is, or maybe we could look at it also from the view of OECD countries, that service sector covers over 70% of the employment and value added in OECD economies. It also accounts for almost all employment growth in this OECD area. So it's quite a large influencer, and we should think very wisely how we design services that make such a big part of our economies. And Design Management Institute, they have based this design value index from 2015, and probably many of you are familiar with it, that many design-centric companies that they placed here, Apple, Coca-Cola, Ford, Nike, IBM, and so forth. So they were able to increase their revenues in stock market with over 200% in comparison to other companies that were not design driven. So this was in between 2005 to 2015. And here is the link if you wish to look at it better. But services, they are all around us. Quite often it's hard to say or see what the service is because they are intangible and they are just around us, so they become kind of invisible, and our role is to make them visible. So we have hospitals, we pay taxes, we use public transportation to get work or to the school. We use services from hotels, restaurants, we go to a hairdresser. And we could roughly divide them into public services and to private services, but it's not so, how could I say, black and white division. For example, public transportation, it could be provided from the public sector, but bought from the private as well. And sometimes hospitals, they can be public or private or a mix of them. And just an example of a job announcement for a service designer, and many companies today have a lot of internal, at least here in the Nordics, a lot of internal stakeholders, like a team of service designers, for example, at Kone or many bigger or even small companies, they have nowadays their own service design teams also in hospitals. And here in Norway, we have social security services like NAV, Norwegian Welfare System services, that they have a team around 60 people of designers working inside the organization. And some of things that I handpicked from the job application is that your passion is to build solutions that create advantages for our customers and provide unmatched experiences to end users. And this way, many times service designers, they combine human, business, and technology viewpoints and master customer listening. Also, it's important that the service designer knows how to lead contextual user research, is familiar with many of these tools as customer journeys, leading co-creation workshops, idea generation, prototyping, and blueprinting service solutions, to name a few. In this way, the person's skills is to understand the service-related problems, challenges of customers and end users. It is to solve problems, but it's also good to bear in mind that some problems are bigger than that you can try to tackle them or harmonize them, but not necessarily solve. And in this way, quite often, service designer works with customers and business stakeholders, staff, and could be also other stakeholders not mentioned here. And it's important that service designers has a good communication skills and knows the fundamental concepts, and in this way also knows to present, influence, and has great social skills. And quite often people that practice service design have many backgrounds. You could have a background in product design, graphic design, interaction design, in operations and strategic management, ethnography, or social design. And also, maybe I could say here that service design orientation that I'm presenting in this presentation is like one based on interaction design and cognitive psychology. I know that there are many strands or concepts how we can understand what service design is, but that's kind of the base where I build my knowledge on services. But I also use systems-oriented design lens to design services. But some of the basic concepts, if you go to hospital, you probably enter there to the building via entrance. Then you might be submitted to a room where you are getting some pre-treatments, and you might have a surgery in the hospital, and then you have, for example, a website that will tell you how the operation went, and you can check all the information related to your health status and so forward. So these kinds of steps from going forward, we call them as service journey. And the specific moments that there are during this journey, we call them as service moments. And during the service moments, there are many different touch points. For example, the sign that you know that, okay, you might enter to the emergency room, or the hospital sign that tells that you're going to the right hospital. Touch point can be also talking to a person, or even like the website is one touch point that you have a kind of this kind of communication with. And if we go closer and look at the service moment is also made out of different design competencies, just as clothing design. Because they are wearing here white clothes, I could assume that they are either doctors or nurses that are visiting me at the place I'm staying. But at the same time, we have graphic design. There is a screen, that there are different signs, how we understand that. And or interaction design, or human-computer interaction, because we interact with that computer screen. There is interior design and architecture, because we're inside the space. And all of this will make part of the user's experience. So here, one way what this book Polaini and has written, that service designer has like a role of a kapellmeister, that you try to put different instruments to play together, that you have a harmonic sound. So you take all these competencies and make them work together. And this is maybe a picture you have seen in LinkedIn, that parents, they like to put these toys or mobiles to spin around the baby's bed. They see it from above and they like it, but actually what the baby sees is a quite different view from the parents. So this is something what kind of the service design also wishes to do. And maybe it's also good to show like a bit on the differences, that user experience is part of the service design, but the service design is much larger component around the experience. So for example, we have like here maybe a user experience moment, that you are talking with the screen, you send a message, but behind the scenes there happens a lot. So there is support people and delivery services and so on. But also around that layer, we have a bigger area that we could call as systems, things that regulate the services as policies and laws. And then we have maybe some impacts and shocks. We had the Ukrainian war that is going on in Europe, or we had pandemics and different kind of megatrends that influence the services and the behavior of the users. And I very much like this from Ginger and San Giorgi, that they define service design a bit like the second, third order of design, but also in phases on the fourth. So if you're not familiar with the Buchanan's 4 orders of design, so the symbol is like the first order. You have logos and signs. Then we have kind of the product services in the second, and in the third we have these interactions and services, and then we have these larger systems, ecosystems that make part of the service as well. So there is this complexity from low to high, and it's very hard to sometimes say that something is very distinct priced as a low or high, because even sometimes making a project that involves a pamphlet could become also a wiki problem when you take the lens of sustainability or the systems perspective, or use the wiki problem theory. But I kind of also agree with Holmlid that he thinks that service design is a good field to kind of lead these different orientations, since it's kind of in the middle and we kind of crack together. So it comes again like leading the music to play together. And I took here Service Blueprint as one of the key or essential tools that service designers like to use. Blueprints are quite old. I think Stack presented them already in the 80s. Although service design, the orientation that I present, is not that old. It's like somewhere from the 90s. But this is one blueprint that my students Martine, Oda, Rui, and Julia created on a service design course. And here we can see that in the first layer, we have like the service journey that I discussed earlier. So this is something that the user sees. It's visible for the person that is going through the service. In this case, it's a service of visiting the museum, the front stage. So the museum visit, it starts with the journey planning. Oh, I'm going to visit the museum. I'm going to check the website. I might need to take the transport, train, bus to get to the Garden of Senses. And then you have the museum experience. So it's the before, during, and after. So this is the service journey. We have the time, how much it takes, each moment of the service, and evidence and customer goals that happen on those moments. And then we go to a layer behind. So we go to the front stage to backstage. So at the backstage, we then have this layer that is made of like this kind of actions that the museum personnel will do. You might meet a museum personnel when you buy a ticket. There are these different contact points that are partly visible to the user. But if we go further, we have a code from the front stage to backstage, and then we have the behind scenes things that happen. And behind scenes, they're almost always like things that they don't, people that use the service don't see. So in this case, the layer behind it is the invisible layer, and the backstage actions, they could include things as creating marketing strategies and look at budgets and administration and things related to that. So in a way, Blueprint is a diagram that displays the entire process of a service delivery by listing all the activities that happen at each stage, performed by the different roles involved. And I think it's interesting to see how much we learned from vocabulary, and also some tools is from theater, because and we use a lot of also role playing to go through those service moments and making them better. And if you're interested in making blueprints, I could suggest maybe starting with this Norman Nielsen's group's blueprint that has these basic components that is good to look to create a blueprint. Quite often, to make one blueprint, it might take 1 month that you investigate what the current blueprint is, and then another month to make the new blueprint to work as it should. And we could ask that, why to make service blueprints? What is the benefit? So I don't know if we can maybe ask audience, what do they think? Or can we maybe discuss in the later of the presentation? Just sort to ask, put the interaction component here. And how to collect data for a blueprint. I put here some suggestions. You could make day in a life. So you go to the working place of the people and experience what it looks. You could make a service safari, pretend, for example, that you're the user and you go through the service. You use observations, interviews. You could use Lego Service Play and workshops to gather the data. But it's also important to know that some data collection might bring some data as the other one can bring something else. And for this reason, it's nice to use different data methods, and this we call as data triangulation. So, for example, you could use interviews, observation, and surveys as an example. If you ask a person, what do you eat for breakfast? Just a simple question. The person might say, I like to eat oatmeal and fruits for breakfast. But then we go and put the camera at the house, and then we discover that the person is eating chocolate Cocoa Pops. And then we make an online survey, and then in the online survey, the person clicks for various things that are oatmeal, fruit, cereals, bread, and so forth. So might be because you are asking the person in front of another person, you might feel that the person needs to impress and say that I'm a healthy eater and so on. But then when it's like anonymous data that you don't talk to people, the person could maybe tell something else. So it's good to be like critical in this sense, the way we collect the data. And we use quite much videos to communicate new service concepts that we create. And as I told that, so we use a lot of like role playing. But before I start the video, so I could maybe explain that this is the concept creation for Arctic truck platooning. So truck platooning, for me, it was a new term when we started this project. It means that you have several trucks that go together in a row, so that you have they are automaticized, so it's autonomous driving. You have one truck with the driver at the front, and then other trucks are just following the driver behind. And it causes some challenges. For example, if you have 5 to 10 trucks, long trucks traveling, so it might be hard to go pass by them. And also if you're traveling in Arctic conditions, so sensors might not always work. So this is some concept creation of how these things could work. So let's start with that. Yeah, so this is one example, like how new technologies, they can be shaping the experience and creation of new services, and how using the role playing this video at the Service Innovation Corner at the University of Lapland. And then I would like to share another project of my students here at the Oslo School of Architecture and Design that is presenting other type of context that is more on the public services. So this was a project from students Arindita, Francesca, Tanya, and Tobias, students from the Master Service Design 2 course. And in this case, we worked together with the Norwegian Welfare and Welfare Administration, NAV, and they called the project as New Normal because there was the pandemic that created a new normal. Then we had the Ukrainian war that became a new normal, and the new normal for people fleeing the war. So what is it like to start a new life in a foreign country? So according to the UN sustainability goals, everyone should have access to peaceful and inclusive societies. And we had this challenge in Europe that Russia invaded Ukraine and began a large-scale war. As a consequence of the war, over 6 million people fled to Ukraine, and in Norway, the plan was to welcome 60,000 people. And Norwegian institutions are working hard to welcome refugees into a new, stable life. For the last 10 weeks, the students, they've been working at the course to how to welcome them. The goal is to help them to get to work, but it's not that easy. There's a lot of things that need to take place before people can begin to work. So this presentation will be about that. The work planning was, or what this presentation contains are the process of making output and conclusions. So the process looks at about design and the complexity and the new normal. The students, they interviewed people on the ground. They went to visit this place that takes asylum seekers in Norway. They followed the news, and they've been following the conversation, like the word of mouth that people talk, for example, to social media. We had some challenges because in Norway, to talk directly with the vulnerable groups, such as refugees, we should go through a 6 application that would go through the data collection for us. And this was some of the issues or the discoveries that of challenges that the students placed in post-it notes. And so they had this challenge, as I said, that they couldn't work directly with the refugees themselves. But they created this mindset model to understand better through the data that they were gathering. And it has like these different layers and stages, like arrival or working with people that are refugees. And some of the key insights that they gained from this work was that there's a lot of lack of transparency. It is really difficult to understand what, when, and how the process works as a refugee going through it. And there is too much information. There's a lot of given, but it's very hard to know what to read and when. People trust a lot the experience of other people at the same situation. So they go to many of these online websites to get knowledge from others. So this is a bit of the feeling that the refugees go through. It's like an endless corridor with endless amount of doors that you could enter into. And the feeling of refugee might be like this, that it's draining you out. So why couldn't they just tell me which store I should go to? Why do I have to do this on my own? And it's important that we shape the experience. The experience shapes the refugees' expectations and feelings for other services as well. That how does the refugee arrival or the experience starts? It shapes a lot the upcoming years as well. So designing in the complexity, the students had to look a bit more viewpoints, and they used this being service design methods and tools as an starting points. So the case of what they found was benchmarking what happened in a close by country in the Baltics. So in Estonia, when you arrive to the country, the refugees are given this leaflet that says to welcome to Estonia in Ukrainian. And okay, you're seeking for collective protections. You need to consider medical assistance, financial support, know about public transportation, legal support. Even if you travel with pets, you need to consider issues like this. So this is kind of like one leaflet that kind of aids navigating the bigger system that you need to consider when you arrive in a new country. And here on the other side of the leaflet, it shows like the journey that if you arrive with a kid, if you arrive alone or with the elderly person. So these are the 3 key insights: lack of transparency, too much information, reliability on word of mouth. And this what should be kind of translated to safety, comfort, and overview. How can this model be applied to Norway? Was one of the questions. So by happy accident, this group, they were able to host a workshop together with NAV and with other other stakeholders that were related to this topic. And this way it was to bridge the refugees and stakeholders' needs. The purpose was to understand the needs and what should be delivered. So these were some of the institutes that came to the workshop. There were around 30 participants. And they tried to like start this kind of a leaflet that would have some same principles, but then they saw that the leaflet alone is not enough, that you need to make this cross collaboration between silos to work so that the journey would work better for the refugees. And this way it's going like this Wings iceberg model, that you see like the top of the iceberg, but you need to go to layers below and design the bigger system around. And the workshop, it started with arrival, with placement and establishment as 3 key issues. And the workshop had this planning of steps, that welcoming, having an icebreaker, explaining what the workshop was about, gathering the data, and conclude and make some future development. And people were divided in these 3 groups, and they also at the door people could see what the previous insights had been this far. They were welcomed, and the students gave their welcome speech as well. People made some icebreaker activity here, and then there was the workshop, that 3 different data collection parts of arriving and settling. And then the groups would present their findings to each other, and then there were like some final words and the next steps that would come from it. And some of the insights were that this will be focusing and that this will be confusing and frustrating. We should be honest about that, so that this is something that is part of the process. And the rival team also discovered or asked that how can we spread the information in humane and understandable way, digesting what is available, but also considering why and when this information is needed. And placement team made this statement that, or the analysis of it, that when you as a refugee look for a place to live, it's not really you that do that. And there are a lot of actors, some like IMD do a lot, but it's happening backstage. They are like, we will help you, but don't contact us. Or the refugees are told to contact the municipality, but who exactly is that? And then we have the establishment team that asked how can we put a greater emphasis on why and not just what. There might be a need for onboarding into this phase of the journey. So this is kind of starting to opening one by one the doors for the refugee. And they placed also more paths to forward, what next steps should be taken and what to do. And I was quite happy about the success of this group, how they were able to kind of reproduce these challenges and make them visible. And it concluded that 2 of the students, they got the summer job that they were contracted by now to continue with the project. And so I see that that was kind of one success story for the students of this course. But I thought I'd take these 2 quite different examples. That other is a bit more like commercial, and other one a bit more like public service and dealing with complexities, and how we would need to use different lenses when we design with services. So especially with public sector, I advocate also a lot with the lens from systems already designed. The students from this particular course used a lot from service ecosystem design. That's from Yosinowink, as a researcher from AHO has set forward.
The slide, thank you.
Yes, that's great. So I will put this one more video. This is also a concept of working with technologies and how you could make possibly new services using like new technologies that emerge. Yes, so the idea of the video was to understand like how we could use drones to different target audiences and groups to tackle different kind of challenges that there are, and for example different people, for example the liver patient that you don't need to go to hospital to get blood examples, but the hospital could come to you with drone and take the blood example in the future, or having the security when you go through a car accident, so the drone could make the work of the area, or taking another blood example of the person that is there and giving some feedback to the ambulance that will be arriving. So those are kind of like different scenarios that we went through, and it actually ended up to one of our group members. He published a paper also about how the possibly the system around the service, like the charging and things related to it. So through this workshop, we were able to make some like cases that how it could work, especially Finland or here in the Nordics, we have remote areas that are hard to reach. So we could use those kind of services as different kinds of mountains or even high trees to make connections. But I hope this explained a bit about the context of the video.
So yeah, thanks. It's a really good foundation or introduction to the service design ecosystem. Um, First, let me ask all the participants if they have any questions to put it in the chat box so that we'll answer one by one. But in the meantime, I just wanted to know, because you also mentioned about wicket problems. So how service design, if you can tell us how do you connect a wicket problem and service design as an appropriate methodology to address these wicket problems?
Yes.
Uh,
That's an excellent question, and I was thinking myself if I would include slides or not to the presentation. There was a couple slides that were taking a bit the complexity view or like the system view for this, and my thesis was entirely like dedicated to looking at the wicked problems in services. How do we approach them? But to answer it well, it would take one lecture, I think. But I could say things like. I think the most important thing is to have the right mindset, that we recognize that we're not dealing with the simple problem, but the wicked problem, and look through the different characteristics that a wicked problem has. For example, that we're not able to say that we have a solution for this problem, like the case of the refugee service or unemployment service, etc. So we cannot say that tick box problem solutioned, but we can make it better. And it's very hard to say that what the problem is, because there are so many stakeholders. Even that one workshop had 12 different organizations that came together, but there are also it's a lot about cross-sectional collaboration, and very important also on who you invite on the table to discuss, because those views that we have people together discussing will shape the brief and the problem statement. And having the problem statement is very important, because if it starts already with the wrong angle or view, we might have consequences that are not so beneficial to some of the groups. So it's very important that all those groups that could be influenced with the service are taking to the table to discuss those aspects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Then there are a couple of questions in the chat box. Arushi is asking, how much do you consider the revenues and financial viability of a service?
I'm sorry, how
much do you consider the revenue and financial viability of a service?
service?
So
Oh,
how
that's a good
important
one.
is revenue and
Yes.
financial viability?
Yeah. I think quite often, like in the university world, we don't go so deep on on thinking those aspects, and we create the concepts. But I would say that it is an essential part also of a service designer to consider. And at the University of Lapland, when I was teaching there, the students would have a course that they would need to read about business model canvas, so that they could tell and communicate the new possible business models, and what kind of values or even a bit like revenues, but kind of you work maybe then closely to the economic team or marketing team as well, that you could pull some more figures. But I think it's also as a area that I think we as service design field need to, I think, tackle more, that how we can maybe how we can say that what is the actual revenue that we improve a service. There are some good cases. I see that, for example, in UK, they have had some, for example, the time that you based on people's time and phone service, for example, that people, they're not getting being their needs attended, and they don't find the right place. So for example, phone, that just getting that phone, unneeded phone services. So you could calculate on that they put the service to work. So they release a lot of manpower, that they don't need to answer questions that people are not finding a place or doing things. So there are these kinds of like ways to measure, but it's very hard to measure like users' experience itself. And it's very much like qualitative experience, and one person's feelings might be different to another as well. So these are very hard to measure, and maybe future research may shed some light to those issues, like what is the quality of a service. So that's a very good question, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. There are, okay, now questions are coming at a faster rate. Let us see if we can take a few more questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Dr. Ravi is asking, what are the basic characteristics of a services? So,
what are the basic
how do you
characters?
characterize services?
A service. That's a good question. I think I tried to explain it a bit like with the like this vocabulary that I think is very common for the service. So that you have the service journey, the service moments, you have touch points. So that kind of makes the user experience on that. But then there is the user experience, there's the service, but then there's the system level as well. Because often that we make person's personal experience better, we need to tackle the system as well and the legislation that shapes the service. So it's kind of it's a bit not easy to say what is the service, and when I try to, there is one book chapter that is in the emerging technologies book that we try to open what kind of different ways we understand what is the service. There are 4 different orientations. That's like the basic service design, or design of service, or product service system, and service ecosystem design. And I try to bring also systems-oriented service design as one other perspective. So it's not one way how we can see what services are, and all these different ways they can explain what the service is a bit differently.
Yeah. There are a couple of questions related to user experience design and service design. So one way is that how it is similar, and how somebody who want to try maybe migrate or shift to service design from user experience design is one question. On what kind of skills they need to acquire.
That's a good question, I think, and I think if you work with user experience, interaction design, or even human-computer interaction, so I think that's a nice base to start to do service design. Like many of those principles we use, and we share a lot of same tool sets. I think just that when you do the service, you need to go more on the backstage as well, like designing more what is happening also behind the scenes of the experience and the systems that shape the service. So I could recommend some books like This is Service Design Doing, This is Service Design Thinking. I could also suggest reading this new book that is coming out of January that is about systemic service design. So then you can get like a bit more toolbox to look on the angles what services is more around the user experience. I don't know if this helps. Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of these can be included. Maybe you can share the presentation. We'll try to share some of these with the participants in case if somebody benefits from that. So yeah, maybe we'll take another couple of questions and then. But yeah, but this is good engagement that there are people who are willing to know more about that and then get into more of a service design ecosystem. So there are a couple of questions on behavior and psychology aspects of that. I think Dharti asked, how does service design impact on the behavior patterns while solving the problem? And there's also another question on psychology. While there is a lot of discussion on how psychology is good to add on for design, I feel sociology will have a bigger impact. Where do you see sociology being helpful? So maybe if you want to answer this.
I think those are very good questions and observations, I think, because although we are not psychologists as service designers, but I feel often that I feel like I'm sometimes making a group therapy session when I make a workshop, because we go to issues of an organization or a service, how it works, and people, they bring up so many things, and you need to navigate with those sensible and sensitive issues. So I would say that it would be great if we had some psychological or this kind of capacitation or capabilities as service designers. I don't think we have it currently in our design courses, but I know that there are some designers that they've seen this need and they actually have gone to take some psychological courses to make better service design.
Okay. Maybe I'll just read. There are a couple of more questions. Sanatan is asking, what is the extent to which designer must also consider the maintenance of the design service in long run? It's more on maintenance, but it's also related to the stakeholders. I'll just read the question. What strategies should a service designer use to effectively mediate between conflicting interests among the stakeholders? I think those two are different questions, but more or less try to understand the process in general.
Yes, I much agree with this, that when we design a service, we need to think of its maintenance and how long it will be there. For example, in digital services, quite often people stop using the digital services if it's not updated. You need to update it like in good amounts of time, otherwise people stop using, and you need to follow up the technology. But also I think we need to think about the sustainability of a service and the time a service ends as well, and what are the immaterial material things that we need to maybe dispose. So I think those are very important questions as well, the sustainability, social plus like environmental sustainability. But also I didn't take it part of this presentation, as I said, it was more about the core building blocks of the service design. But my research is looking much on the wicked problems, and when you work with wicked problems, you work with conflicting views and ways of seeing. And that's why I've been using myself tools that are mapping tools. So for example, Birger Sevaldsson, professor now emeritus at the Oslo School of Architecture and Design, has put forward this Giga mapping tool. That is a dialogical tool. Another tool that is a great mapping tool is from Robert E. Horn, also another emeritus from Stanford University. And it's like getting the stakeholders together and how to make the stakeholders to discuss together, and that they have to listen to each other, and kind of also understand that I might be causing the pain of the other in the organization and vice versa. So it's very like, I think when you work with wicked problems, we as service design facilitators, you navigate area of a lot of diplomacy. And for this reason, when I work with wicked problems, I'm very careful that I try to be more neutral negotiator and not an activist. That is, it's okay to be in a meso level, I think, and it can be very useful to be a design activist. But if you make very sensitive macro level facilitation, when you have to look at the policies and how the laws will influence and how you might be causing harm for some stakeholders. So I don't feel like it's good that I have a very strong opinion of myself, but I try to mitigate and try to bring common ground between the people.
So there's one question on how do you define the right time to conclude the research phase in a project. I think this is generic, not necessarily in service design. Maybe if you wish, you can answer. But I think there are a couple of other questions which talks about metrics and quality of service design impact. So how do you measure impact of a service? Are there any metrics? Or in fact, this also talks about the question like what is the best way to learn service design? Maybe if you learn in a more systematic way, or if you are able to identify these metrics, I think if you can give some leads to that where they can pick up these metrics and then enter into the process.
I think it goes very much with the previous question that I think we discussed a bit how it is a big question that how we can metrics, and big metrics is about what is the experience, what's the experience of the user. But I also see that we need to, depending on the case that you are designing the services, the user can be the patient, but we could take the user as the healthcare people that are taking care of the patient, because also their services should be good so that they can take better care of the patient. So how do we measure those experience in the system as well, and that their service journeys inside, for example, in a hospital will go smoothly, or in a tax office as well. But so I think this is a research field that I'm myself not in, and I think there might be other researchers that might be much better prepared to answer these questions. And I think it's a big question first to define what is the value, because every service is a bit different. So what is the value for tax service, or what is the value for taking a massage, or what is the value flying and going for holidays? But it's kind of we kind of value in different monetary ways also when we speak about public services and private services. So it's like the money that we make, most of the money of a public service, that we spend less and get the most. Whereas if you want to provide a luxury service, so then the money is not an issue. So there are a lot of different logics and mindsets how we operate in different services.
Yeah, I think
add here. So we have a lecture 4, which is specifically focusing on this issue, that the measuring the impact of service design. It will be in the month of February. So please tune to the series. You will get to know more about it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Ravi.
Thank you. Yes. So I think we'll just end with one more question, because you mentioned about the public and private services. There's one question on how do you test solutions that involve the government or multiple stakeholders. Say for in the example of the Guardian Angel drone service, where multiple agencies are involved. So how do you test? Again, I think that also relates to the metrics and the measurement part of it. But yeah, so if you wish, you can answer that.
So I'm sorry, I lost like the start of the question.
Yeah, when there are multiple agencies like government, public, private agencies, so how do you measure the impact?
Yeah, that's a good one, because so I think we should look very much like case specific, like the impacts and what is the impact for a doctor, what is the impact for a patient, what is the impact for a government. So there are a lot of like places or logics that we need to navigate. So I think maybe the lecture that Professor Ravi told might go more deeper on these issues. Yeah.
Fine. I think we are able to answer to almost all the questions except one at the last by Paula. I'll just read: in designing services, how much attention is typically given to the workload and well-being of the workers delivering the service?
Yeah, that's a very good one, because I think that's an important part of service delivery as well. And this is one of the reasons that I myself advocate more about the systemic view, that we have more than one user in the end. There's multiple users, multiple layers. So I think we should treat not just the end user as an end user, but also the people that are delivering the service as the users as well, that we design for all of them, so that the end user service will become better as well.
Great. So maybe we'll stop here. Again, there are questions coming. Maybe we'll just hold it on for upcoming sessions. But yeah, good. Thank you. I'll now hand over to Shrikar for the concluding remarks, and then he can close the sessions after that. Over to you, Shrikar.
Yes, thanks, Prasad. Thanks, Mari. This is a fascinating session today that we've had on the introduction, the foundations of service design. And like, I think one of the last questions is around how do we learn about service design? I think this is a first time that we are bringing this international conference in India, and in fact in Asia. So I think it's a good beginning, and I see a lot of interest coming from all the participants here. So there are these chances, and you're all welcome to attend this in our campus in IT Hyderabad. So first of all, thanks to Mari for this fascinating session, and we got a glimpse into the world of service design. We have seen principles, methodologies, frameworks around how you go about navigating this. There's some interesting tools around service design blueprint, journey mapping, stakeholder engagement, and some very fascinating projects and case studies that you have shared. So these are, I think, some interesting view into the world of service design. So to continue this excitement further, we will open up another session next month. So this is on service design in emerging markets. We have eminent speaker, Dr. Pramod Khambate, who will be talking about the service design in emerging markets like in India. So again, thank you all for participating, joining us today for this talk today, and we will look forward to having you all in the next session in a month's time. We will be, so no need to register again for this session. Whoever has already registered, we will be intimating you through the email well in advance. So please join in that link in the way that you've joined today, and keep a tab on our social media posts and our website, ServDes25.org, for all the latest information on this webinar series, and also into the conference that we are hosting next year. So thanks for joining in, and have a great time, great day, good night, and looking forward to catching up with you all again next month. Thank you.